right, well, it is 12 o'clock. It is industry update time for Northwest Georgia. For those of you who are still hopping on, we are recording this call and going to be pushing it out. So just please keep in mind that you're being recorded, what we hear and say and see. So introduce Matt Pitts, our team leader for Keller Williams Signature Partners, and Jenny Smith. Jenny Smith coming off an incredible awards day recently with us, with your team. Jenny, give us a little bit of background, heads up on who you are as an agent to help bring some credibility to what you're going to be sharing with us today.
So I am coming up on my 9th year in real estate. In April, it will have been 9 years. So I'm excited about that. So when I first got started in real estate, it was a totally different market. And it has been fun learning to navigate. I would say about 3 different markets is what I feel like we've been through in the last 9 years. So I run a team out of Cartersville, Georgia. Currently, there are 6 of us, and last year we did 145 transactions, right at 33 million, and we're on track this year, hopefully, to beat that.
145 transactions.
145 transactions.
Amazing, amazing year. And
so I would think if anybody knows what's happening in this market,
so really 3 times
focusing on Bartow County, Gordon County, Floyd County, I know a lot of stretches down into Paulding County as well. We're not going to cover that today, but you would have an idea of what's happening. How would you, in 30 seconds or less, describe this market?
Crazy. So there's like 3 different things that are happening. If you're working with sellers, it's fantastic. If you're working with buyers, it's so difficult. And then when you're kind of in the middle of helping sellers who are also going to be a buyer, it's very complex.
Yep.
So crazy, complex, and fantastic is how I would call it.
So we want to respect everyone's time. We're going to jump right into some stats. I'm going to hand over to Matt. Matt and Brett Caldwell, our OP, is on the call as well.
But Matt, I think Jenny is the expert here. We're just here to support you, Jenny.
Well, I'm going to let y'all do these fun numbers. So I'm going to bow out to y'all with your numbers here. So
okay, Matt, take it away.
Yeah, we'll just run with some stats real quick. So these are Bartow specific. You guys can see the Excel spreadsheet. Give it a thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. So this is the Bartow County numbers through the 7th of this month. And as you can see, we took 48 more listings that hit the market during that week long, from 228 to 337. But it's been pretty consistent with the amount of listings coming to hit the market. And Jenny, what I'm hearing is it's not enough. Not enough at all. So if you see kind of the trend, a lot of things are following. Pending sales, we got 48 that come on the market, 42 are pending, 11 under contract. That's going in the wrong direction, right, Jeffrey?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
well, and Matt, I'd point out it's not necessarily new listings. It's how many active properties at that moment in time when we pulled the stats, right? So what's interesting is we pull them on Monday. So I don't know, Jenny, when does most of your listings go pending?
In the system.
Yeah, I would say late Monday, maybe even as early as, as late as Tuesday morning. So seldom we're doing paperwork on Sunday nights.
Yeah, so, and then when are you putting most of your listings active?
We put our listings active on Thursdays.
Yeah, so I'm catching, I think, the active listings over the weekend, but I don't know that we're catching all the ones that went through pending that weekend, right?
That's right.
Just for perspective.
Yep. And you can see our great little squiggly graph lines down here that kind of give us an idea that not a ton is changing. They're kind of following each other. So let's go over to Gordon County.
Hey, Matt, while we're on that, just a great stat to look at. Average price point in Bartow County, February of 2022 was $295,000. In comparison to February 2021, it was $225,000. So
Yeah, and we're gonna look at some stuff
That's,
here in we're gonna look at some stuff here in a little bit where people are predicting that sort of increase this year. Again,
And one of the things that's interesting when you dig into the numbers, it's not that we're not listing as many houses this year as like last year or even the year before. It has been pretty consistent. It's the amount of buyers we have, where they're all coming from, and just how many people are moving to our area and how little new construction we have. I think that is a huge part of why we're having so much issues, especially in right here where we're at, is we're pretty consistent on listings. We just have 7 times as many buyers.
yeah, it's a great
And
point.
why is that, Jenny? Why is that?
Well, here in Bartow County, of course, we have easy access to I-75. We have lots of great jobs with all the industries that are moving here. Of course, if you're moving out of state, coming from out of state, they love our taxes. They love the restaurants and how close they can be to the city without being in the city.
Yep.
So good.
That's great to know, especially looking at prospective buyers in Bartow County.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Matt, let's go to Gordon.
Let's go to Gordon. So we're just going to shrink down everything and get into, like Jenny said, we're pretty consistent across the boards, whether we're listening Monday or Friday, in the amount of listings compared to last year, very similar. But the amount of buyers, as you can see, are going under contract. The houses are going under contract very, very quickly. So Gordon County, I always like to say when I'm doing these every time, Jeffrey and Jenny, is it just seems like a smaller down version of Bartow County. And that makes a lot of sense as to where it is. Jenny, have you been in Gordon County lately working business? And what does that look like, if at all different from Cartersville, Bartow area?
So most of the people that we're having in Gordon County, they're not trying to be so close to like Marietta and things, because that is a pretty good drive. However, what you run into Gordon County is a lot of overflow from Dalton, because that's a great drive. And it is a little bit slower because as people have to commute, where can they get to within 30 to 45 minutes? And usually like the very Adairsville is about as far north as we can get. And those higher paying jobs, of course, are down that way. So it's just a little bit, it does move fast by their standards, but it's usually a different type of buyer.
Yeah, so what I heard you say is instead of coming south, these are people that are moving more towards that direction from the north and working there. So that is, love it.
Matt, the big jump from last week to this week. And I know like we occasionally, if you look back through the stats of Gordon County, you'll see like there's a few outlier weeks. Do you think that the stats we pulled yesterday or Monday of this week, the 7th, are an outlier week, or is this projection of spring market, I say that loosely, of where we're headed, or statistically, do you think it's an outlier?
Statistically, my hope is we're moving in the right direction of the spring market. I'm getting close to asking Jenny Hare's opinion on what the spring market's going to look like this year. But I'm hoping and looking at the stat line that it is moving in a direction of spring, Jeffrey.
Great.
Yeah, and then all those coming soon that were showing up on the 28th versus 0 the next week. Those coming soons probably were under contract within a day. There's a lot of people like to list their house at the beginning of the month.
That's right. That's right. And lastly, we're going to go over Floyd County here. As you can see, we pull these from Georgia MLS, so a little shrunken down view as they're mostly in the Georgia MLS. 32 new listings last week, which is the highest we've had since the 131, which is great. 16 pending and 10 closed. So, Jeffrey, what do you see in those numbers?
That it feels like a lot of people are realizing where to go to get more of what they want in their house and their land.
Yeah.
I think people up in Floyd County that are current residents are beginning to realize that, wow, I have something very desirable. And they're going to start putting their property on the market. But I'm interested, what I look at too is closed numbers, 7, 10 this week, 7 the week before, but then look how high they were previously. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, it could mean a few different things. Numbers don't lie. We know that. So there's definitely a slowdown in the past 2 to 3 weeks of actual closings that are happening.
Yeah, speaking from
But don't you,
go ahead, Brett.
don't you guys think a lot of property in Floyd County or Gordon County is happening outside of the MLS though? Or do you think it's all going through the MLS?
I will tell you from an office perspective, if you're looking at numbers, and it shows right here, January was an amazing month for Floyd County. February was a little different, was not an amazing month for Floyd County as our agents and closings go. And that reflects right here in the data. So maybe some are off market, on market, things that we're not capturing. This just matches up a lot with what came in over our January, February numbers.
Jenny, what do you see in terms of that? I know y'all's is a little structure is a little bit different, but what are you seeing in terms of off market versus on market properties?
Now, we are representing some buyers on for sale by owners. So obviously those are off market, but on the listing side, because we're in a mandatory listing company, we shouldn't see a whole lot of difference. In most of those companies, whether you're talking about in Rome or Gordon County or Bartow County, they're all companies that are under that mandatory footnote in. So we shouldn't be seeing a ton. And I don't think there's that many for sale by owners in our area that it would be pushing the numbers that far off. I think it's just
that should be more of an outlier number.
Yeah. It's also a shorter month. You had a holiday and it was super cold.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if you were to look back 30 to 60 days prior to that, we were in the middle of the variant. You know, I mean, if it's the same thing of what happens in our regular business, it's same as listing and getting your house ready. And so that could be some of the potential.
So Jenny, I wanted to jump over and kind of get your predictions. And it's a two-part question. Number one, predictions. Don't you love those? Number one, what are you expecting in the spring market? What do you expect to happen over the next few months in our Northwest Georgia area? And if that's really good news, which I hope it is, what could throw that off, or maybe is happening right now that could throw that off? What's your opinion of all the stuff going on and what could affect this year from looking amazing or not so amazing?
I think we're going to have a great year in real estate. I think there's a plenty of sellers out there who are going to be motivated to get those properties sold this year. And I do think prices are going to continue to go up because we're just not seeing any new construction to take that demand off for the most part. The things that are happening in the world, will that have an impact? I'm going to be honest. I said this to Jeffrey, I think earlier or yesterday. COVID was a huge disruptor and it didn't have that much of an impact. It really pushed people to recognize how much their houses mean to them. And I think with everything that we have going on right now, I don't think interest rates are going to go up significantly enough this year to offset people getting into a house, because you have to understand, as things happen with inflation, war, all of that, what happens to rental prices? They go up. They continue to go up. So while we might not see 20% increases in prices in 6 months, I think we are going to see some increases. And as people's rent goes up, that is going to make it more desirable for them to get a house. Even more so, if the interest rates do go up just a little bit, they'll put a little bit of a bug underneath them where they're like, I have got to get out of this rental, to where they go up on me every single year.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It's good insight, Jenny. It's good insight. It's like that. I wish we all had a crystal ball and could predict what's coming, but at least it gives us a perspective of how to structure our businesses this year. Absolutely. I was going to ask you, Jenny, because we have these conversations quite a bit back and forth. What are you seeing especially in Bartow County and in these specific areas? And not giving away the secrets, but what is standing out in offers in this market? What type of offers are getting sellers' attention?
So if it's a lived-in house and you offer some kind of post-closing possession, almost all the time, that is a positive to the seller. I mean, across the board. Even if it's someone that is going to be buying, it does give them the breathing room, because currently houses are terminating more often than we've seen in the past. So that for a seller, it gives them a little bit of comfort that they don't have to move out until they have the money at hand. Appraisal gaps have always caught people's attention. Personally, we don't pay as much attention to if we are getting offers that are above asking, if it's not guaranteed with cash. Because if I thought on a $350,000 house, I could get it appraised for $375,000, guess what the price would be?
370.
Yeah, so when I get an offer for $375,000, if you're not putting some cash with that, I'm gonna tell the seller, if I thought I could have got $375,000, that's what we'd have it listed for, unless, obviously somebody makes a cash offer, but those are not as common sometimes. So.
Love that. I have another specific Jenny question, and not to give away all secrets, because people have to do it as well as you do, Jenny, but your team closed 100, almost 150 transactions.
Oh, come on, Matt. We want all the secrets.
Oh, I was going to say, oh gosh, someone tell him to mute his mic.
Yeah. So over 100, right at 150 transactions, you don't do that without having great messaging and creating leads. So what is your message to the market, your message to the general consumer right now that's working really well for you and you guys to create that many leads?
So one of the things I think as an industry we've got to get better about is selling that our ability to fix the problems is a portion of what they're hiring us for. Anybody can stick a sign in the ground and get it on the MLS, but it's navigating what happens if it doesn't appraise, what happens to the home inspection. How can I get you in a house before you sell your house? In fact, we've got a video and a PDF coming out today, 10 ways to buy if you're still in sale at the same time, just 10 different options. Because sometimes we only think of the 2 different options and we came up with 10. So making sure that they know you have knowledge that they don't have.
So you're providing solutions and knowledge, not when the problem comes to you. You're proactively going out and sharing that message so they see that which differentiates you. The Zoom's messed up. That's why I said that wrong. But that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, because what we're trying to do is attract people, not chase them down. So if they like what they hear from me, then they're obviously going to like me on a listing appointment or working with someone on our team. And if they don't like me, then don't call. Lord heavens, there's enough real estate agents. If you don't like what you see on video, for heaven's sakes, don't give me a call, because it could be worse in person.
And I heard this quote the other day, and I'm gonna let Jeffrey ask a good question, or Brett, but I heard this quote the other day that said, my video that is not that great is way better than your video that you never send out at all. And I know we've talked so much about that, about being proactive, and you are so consistent, and it doesn't have to look perfect. It looks perfect, but it doesn't have to look perfect. You have to do it. What advice would you give to somebody who's looking to make sure everything's perfect and what the consumer expects?
So there's 2 things. The only way you get better is with practice. So if you ever want to take feel good about yourself, go to our YouTube channel, watch some of my earlier videos, and you will say somebody should have taken her camera away. But we got better and we got better and better. And hopefully what you see next year will be better than what you see this year. But if you don't get it out there and get over that fear and just the practice, it's like showing up for a baseball game and you never hit a baseball. It's going to be terrible. So practice. And remember, we're harder on ourselves than anybody else. So.
We talk a lot on these calls, Jenny, about being a skills-based agent, about being an agent that comes from knowledge and insight into the markets they're working in. When did that shift happen for you? Because I would say without a question in my mind that you are an extremely skills-based agent in terms of knowing your market. But did it start that way? What did that shift happen? And what can we do to become better at that?
One of the things that I did probably different than a lot of agents is when I was brand new, I printed out all the contracts and I carried them around with me for weeks and months until you could ask me about a question on that contract and I could tell you what page it was on. I could answer it without looking at it. And I also previewed on average 25 houses a week because I had no business. And then I sat in the office from 8 until 3 because my kids were in school, just listening and learning what did real agents talk about, because I didn't consider myself a real agent because I didn't know anything and I had no business. So I feel like knowledge is in anybody's hands if they're willing to put in the work. You don't have to be super talented. You don't have to be super smart. You just have to be willing to read and listen and soak it in.
So good.
And when you have that and you're leading from that, things like industry updates calls and being able to learn the stats for your market are so much easier because you're not having to keep up trying to learn a contract and write a contract. You're just able to understand the market and what's happening and where we're headed. I love that. Love it.
All right, Brett, I see you there. What question do you have for Jenny?
Well, I just think the question is if you're the economist of choice to your consumers, what does that mean? And how does this call help you develop that?
So for me, what I want my people to know is if they call me, I don't talk about real estate with anyone in any capacity. Like if they're just curious about what's happening in their subdivision, I got several text messages about what does the war mean for the house, my house value. Like I want them to feel like they can reach out to me at any time. Now calls like this, honest to goodness, what you're getting is you're getting to learn from people who have spent some time this morning getting prepared. So you get to take their answers and incorporate them into your speech, and you sound like you did the work for it.
Yep.
I don't think bad, but like if you can listen to this as a newer agent or an agent that's just not maybe doing enough transactions to see it, you can take what you hear on these calls, put it in your own words, and you'll look like the expert.
You
No,
become.
I think that's exactly it, right? If somebody on this call says something smart and you regurgitate that to a client, you now own that smart statement. And it's really, I mean, it's like, it's like reading books. If you're not putting new thoughts or new commentary into your brain, you don't have any new thoughts that are just going on inside of your perspective on life. Well, economics and stats and perspectives around numbers in the real estate market is just the same thing. If you're not constantly in a conversation around what's going on in the market, your perspective is dated. It's not fresh, right? And that's what these calls really do. You brought up something I think is interesting is this. I think a lot of people are going to get asked in the industry about this war on Ukraine. What's your perspective on how that affects whether I should sell my house, whether it's a good time to buy, what's it going to do to interest rates, all the above, right?
Yeah, so
how would you answer that?
With the war on Ukraine, I mean, a lot of it just depends on how long it drags out. But obviously, we already see gas prices going up, and we know goods are going to go up too in the short term and maybe even the long term, which is going to give us less disposable income. I think there's two sides of it. I think we're going to see a lot of people who possibly can't afford as much house as they wanted to, but they want that lower interest rate, and it still makes sense. And then I do think that we're missing that all these people renting are going to feel like they want more security, because we lived in rental housing for several years, and you always worry when things like this are going on, could somebody make me leave my house? And the answer is yes. So when people feel that a little bit insecure in where they're living at, they want something that they can own. And then, of course, for our people who kind of look at it more from the economics, one of the hedges against inflation and all that goes with that is always going to be real estate. I mean, there's a couple, but real estate is one of the biggest ones.
Jenny, what I love about watching your business is you are the expert in your market, and your clients feel that, and your clients see that. Is that a confidence that you own, or is it the knowledge that you bring to the table? And how do you communicate that?
It's definitely not confidence, because like I'm sweating and I do this little thing with my hands when I'm nervous. So if you could see my hands, I have rubbed red spots because I'm very nervous on this call. So if you get the knowledge and can control, that's why I do this a lot when I am nervous, and figure out a way to control your voice and what you're projecting, you will come across as an expert, even if inside you're like, oh my goodness, what are they going to ask me? Because they did not give me a list of questions I would have preferred. But I think it's knowledge more than confidence, because in and of myself, there's really nothing we can be confident in. Our confidence coming in the knowledge that's at our hand.
So last question, and then we're gonna be done. You are from Adairsville, right? You are Bartow County longtime resident.
So we've lived in Bartow County 22 years. We moved to Bartow County in 2000. And we were originally in Cartersville. We kind of bounced around Cartersville and Adairsville for forever. We still move quite often. I like to move around a little bit. So we kind of made a circle all the way through Bartow County. But yeah, we've been here 22 years.
You knowing Bartow County the way you know Bartow County, if I am a new agent and I am adopting this mindset of being a skills-based agent, learning the market, learning the industry, what are two things that I need to do immediately? And you've already said them, but I just want to make sure people are understanding. Becoming a skills-based agent and knowledgeable about the market is not out of reach for them, even as a new agent. What are two things that I can do this week to make me more knowledgeable about my market?
So one of the things you have to realize is you're going to get asked two questions over and over. The first question is, how's the market? And they're going to ask that in some kind of form or fashion at the grocery store, at the school, wherever you're at. So you want to be able to answer that easily. That is intriguing. Like, you want to answer it in such a way that they kind of dialogue with you. So that's one thing. Figure out what you're going to say about the market, because the last thing you want to say is, oh my gosh, it's terrible. If you're a buyer, you're never going to get a house. You can't, blah, 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 52 offers. That's because if they're thinking about buying a house, what did you just tell them? Not
to buy a house.
You can't do it. Mm-hmm. Like you, the agent, don't have the skills to get them in a house. Yeah. That's what you told them too. So that's one thing. How are you going to answer that? And then the second thing you're going to hear and get asked a lot is, like, if you're dropping your kids off at school, you're going to hear, do you know anything about that house that just went for sale in our neighborhood? Because wherever your elementary school is a very micro, very small market. So like, if you decide, and I'm saying elementary school, but it could be a different place if all your kids are in high school, it doesn't matter. But you want to zero in on where are the people that you talk to looking at houses and living. Because what you want to do is make sure you preview every house that is listed in that little circle. Because what will happen is when somebody asks you about that house, you can be like, yeah, I mean, Jeffrey, I was in that house the other day and you would not believe the kitchen. I mean, my goodness, I could cook good in that kitchen, or whatever you like to say. But you want to be able to talk about the houses as an expert, and all that requires you to do is actually walk in the houses. Once you start doing that, then when somebody says, well, what do you think my house would go for? you can start talking about it because you've been in enough houses. Like one of the things that's so hard with new agents to price a house is if you have only been in $200,000-$300,000 houses, you don't really know what's common in a $300,000 house. You have no idea, like, is this a standard feature in 300,000 or is this fantastic? And listen, we all make this mistake. If I've got time, do I have 2 minutes?
You have as much time as you want.
So Chad is still on this call, and I'm gonna tell a story about one of the things that we did that was ridiculous back when we were new agents. I mean, we looked like goofballs, and it's because we did not take we were still learning. So we were showing these clients from out of town houses in Great Sky. Now, how many of y'all are familiar with Great Sky? It's over in Canton. Beautiful homes, beautiful homes. And we went in one of the houses, and we had physically never been in a house like this. It was beautiful. It was so different. It was just something I had never been in before, nor Chad. So we told them, oh, this must be a custom built house. It is fantastic, blah, blah, blah. Guess what was up the road 4 houses up?
Exact same house.
6 more houses up?
Exact same house.
10 houses over?
Yeah.
Exact same
Yeah.
house.
Claire, and that is whenever I think it finally slapped me across the face is you can't be an expert if you don't see enough houses. Because to me, that was a custom built house. In that subdivision, this tract house, there's probably 15 of them. And that was probably within the first maybe 6 months of my real estate career. And that is when I determined I was going to see more houses. And like I said, on average, I saw about 25 a week, whether I had a client or not.
I can't tell you how many times I've just made the statement of this is what 400 looks like now. Also, we go in a lot of houses now. Like, I preview a lot in my neighborhood, like just like you're saying, because now I'm able to say, people are like, this is so expensive. Oh my gosh, this is so small. I'm like, this is what $400,000 looks like.
And Jeffrey, I think this goes back to what Jenny said. I may not be a confident person. When I have this knowledge, the way it comes out, the way Jenny's speaking, the way you're speaking right now about this is 400, it sounds confident. You can say it with conviction. And that's where people notice a difference. And I think puts you in the top 1% of agents easily if you do the work that Jenny's talking about right there. Because you sound different than 99.8% of agents out there when the people and the consumer are out there talking. You sound totally different.
Yep. Well, it is 12:32. I'll blame Jenny for the 2 minutes over. But hey, Jenny, thank you so much. Thank you for giving us your time, your investment. Thanks for those who popped on. We'll be sending the recording out too. Next month, be on the lookout. We're going to be, we have some agents joining us from our Calhoun office, and we're going to do a deep dive into Gordon County. So for those of you who do a lot of business up there, be looking for that coming in the next few weeks. But thank you again, Jenny. I hope you have a fantastic week. Bundle up. It's cold out there, guys.
Thank you.